Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for checking out Pandemic Isolation Part 22. I actually don't plan on making this a very long video because I've been working all day on hopefully starting a new mini-series, and I will hold you in suspense for the title name. Well, I guess I won't, because if you look hard enough, you'll find out. I'm going to call it Traveling in Isolation. So that's going to be the name of my new mini-series, and it's just going to feature just different places around the world. I might only do just one place per video just to keep it simple. But otherwise, if I don't have enough information, which I don't think that's going to happen, in one location, if there's just not enough information to access, then I might throw in a second location. But that's what I'm working on right now. I'm going to use various resources around the internet that I'm going to use to explore different places because I'm stuck at home. We can't go anywhere. We can't leave the country. There's some states that are starting to refuse people to even come in from a different state. At least that's what I've been hearing. I know in Florida, at least, if you're coming from, let's see, Louisiana and New York, there's the only two I've heard so far. If you're coming from either of those states, then they are requiring you to quarantine yourself for 14 days. I don't know how they enforce it, but from what I've heard, and I saw this somewhere in a comment section, so I don't know how true this really is, but from what I heard, what they're doing on the interstates that are coming into Florida from out of state, they're actually having people stopping at the way stations, and I guess they're just, I don't know if they're checking out license plates or what, but they're apparently stopping people and informing them if they come from either state to self-isolate for 14 days, and if not, they're technically breaking the law because that's an executive order signed by the governor or something like that. I think it's an executive order, but so I don't know. It's pretty crazy, but I haven't really prepared for the this episode for today. But I took a quick glance around a couple of sites, so I think I'll do what I've done in the past when I had limited or no time to prepare for this. What I'll do, I'll jump on a couple of websites and I'll just check out their main page and see if there's anything that's interesting enough to click on, or informative or important enough. I mean, I think everything on here is important at this point, but yeah, there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on out there. Let's see. Oh, by the way, this is day 23 of the isolation. Let's see. And that's the number of days since the national emergency has been declared by the President of the United States. And so let's see here. Yeah, I did. I missed the president's speech today. I shouldn't have, but they aired it earlier than I was anticipating. I usually don't tune in until around 6, but I noticed on YouTube in one of the thumbnails it said president's speech, and it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I clicked on it, and he was doing, I believe, the Q&A process. So, and I only watched it for like a minute. The only thing that I heard, oh no, it wasn't. Yeah, actually, yeah, I think it was during Q&A. But anyway, the only thing that I did hear that I thought I should share on this is that there are 1,000 military troops that are being sent into New York City just to help in any way that they're able to help, just to help combat like anything that the virus might be causing in the city. I mean, we all know what's happening. There, 350 ambulances were provided from FEMA. Let's see, 500, I think it was 500 paramedics have been supplied through FEMA just in New York City alone. And they've set up these makeshift hospitals everywhere. I think they were like at somewhere around 40,000 beds I think they have available. That's outside of the hospital if the hospitals are completely filled. So yes, there's a lot going on in New York, and it's getting bad really quick. And the president keeps saying, he's like, look, these next 2 weeks are going to be crazy. They're not going to be good at all. They're going to be pretty bad for America. But as long as we shelter, stay in place, do our thing, then we will hopefully flatten the curve. That's what Dr. Fauci always talks about. And Dr. Deborah Birx. I finally learned her name. Dr. Deborah Birx. She is the blonde-haired lady. She's kind of older. And she's always up there with Dr. Birx, who is a short guy. Not making fun of him, obviously. I'm just describing him. He wears glasses. He has kind of a raspy voice. And yeah, they're usually up there to keep us updated on what's going on with the research and development with the virus and the vaccines and all that. So I don't know if he was on there today, but he wasn't on there yesterday. So, but anyway, let's see here. Yeah, it kind of was a nice break. I don't know why I typed that in. I guess just at the moment it crossed my mind just but I wasn't intending on missing it. But since I had already missed it, I was like, well, it's kind of a good thing. It's not. I mean, today was actually a pretty good day for me personally because I didn't spend all my free time just looking up article after article. Not to say that I'm not going to do that from here on out, but it was just kind of a nice break to focus on something else other than nonstop coronavirus news as soon as I get off of work or during the weekend when I'm not working. So, but anyway, hopefully everybody's doing okay out there. Hopefully you're getting by with the best that you're able to. I'm not really sure what kind of advice I could offer if you're not working at the moment. I mean, I had mentioned like some restaurants, they're doing delivery only. So I wouldn't be surprised if, well, there's an app, and I'm sure just by mentioning this, people are going to start yelling because I don't remember what it's called, but it's a really popular app. It's kind of like Uber, but for food delivery. And I'm not even going to come up with the name. I'm not even going to try because I've never used it. I've only heard of it a couple times. But I hear that there were tens of thousands of people applying to be delivery drivers through that app. And I mean, obviously the president didn't suggest you use it unless he did at some point, and I just didn't hear that. But I don't think it's being mentioned on an official capacity to use that app. But apparently a lot of people are taking advantage of that by ordering food from places they love and not having to go out and potentially expose themselves to the virus, perhaps. Instead, they just have the delivery person just bring it to their door. And that's nice for the business because they can stay above water, hopefully, if they get enough orders. And I mean, that's the number one thing that I could really suggest if you are in a position where you could do that. Definitely spend your money ordering out occasionally. I don't have very much money personally, but I think I do have enough money if I do have enough time. Ordering a pizza either today or tomorrow, like Jodo's Pizza. I've ordered them during a couple of my past episodes. I think it's been too soon. I think I might have to go with somebody else because I'm not really feeling them at the moment. But, I really think you should do that, or just find a way to spend your money somewhere that's perhaps not 100% at the grocery store. I'm not saying go out and potentially expose yourself to the virus, but there's a lot of businesses out there that are really struggling. A lot of people who can't find work because they've been furloughed. So I don't know. I guess those of us who are still able to hold down their job for the time being, it would be in our best interest to try to support our community at the very least by doing that, if nothing else. So anyway, let's see here. I got to blow my nose. Give me just a sec. All right. My nose was tickling me, bothering me. All right. Anyway, I don't have the virus. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm perfectly fine. So far, so good. Hopefully it stays that way. So anyway, let's see here. Yeah, so that whole Venezuelan Navy ship thing, that was crazy. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned that yesterday on this show. But yeah, pretty nuts what happened. At first I thought it was hilarious. And then when I kept looking more and more into it, because obviously it was in the news at some point today, what little of the news that I did look at, it was mentioned in it. I mean, I honestly started feeling bad for the country because they're in such a desperate position that it seems like they were trying to essentially, commandeer this cruise ship like a pirate would, like they were trying to steal this cruise ship. At least that's what it looks like they were doing. Probably because they're so desperate for supplies, and they know that a cruise ship is kind of like a floating city, really, with all the food and all the supplies that they have. Plus, they could technically use that as a place to house people who are, I don't know, in a desperate situation or homeless or something. But right now, Venezuela, they're not really, I mean, I'm sure that they're struggling to some extent with coronavirus, but their main struggle, from what I understand, is the fact that oil is virtually worthless right now because nobody's driving anywhere. The planes aren't flying like they usually are. People aren't, I mean, I'm sure that the delivery sector is probably off the chart, but most people aren't driving as much as they normally are. I know I'm certainly not driving that much. And by not doing so, our capacity to store oil is at its maximum. I mean, there's no point in pumping for oil anymore because there's nowhere to put it. I mean, they have oil tankers sitting offshore that are completely filled to the top with crude oil, and there's nowhere to take them to, or there's nowhere to take that oil to because all the refineries, all those big giant tanks that surround the refineries, they're completely full of gasoline. So they literally just have to sit there offshore and hope eventually people start using gas again, I guess. But in Venezuela, their biggest export is oil. So they obviously took probably the worst hit of anybody in the world when it comes to the oil exportation. We are a net exporter, which I think we have a really good advantage. I mean, I know that sector is not going to be very good, or they're not going to be very well off, whichever. I don't think Shell is American. I think that's a Saudi company or something. I know BP, that's British Petroleum, but I know that we've got a bunch here. I'm sure, again, maybe a few people are yelling. Texaco? No, that's like a gas station. I don't know, but you understand what I mean. There are going to be companies here in regions like Texas, obviously, Louisiana, I'm sure, that are going to take a massive hit. But our country as a whole, I think we're pretty well prepared to ride out that storm, I think. But Venezuela is not. So I think that's probably why they were trying to take that cruise ship, just because they're getting really desperate. And it's kind of scary too, because if a country gets desperate enough, they'll be willing to die for whatever it is that they need to survive, because that's pretty much anybody's last possible option. I mean, if you're stuck in a corner and you're starving to death, I mean, chances are you're not just going to wither up and die there. Chances are you're going to do anything that you can to try to find something to eat, because the alternative is death. And I mean, if you only have like a 1% chance of finding a meal somewhere, I mean, I would think that 100% of us would at least try, because I mean, it's either that or you just lay there and die. I'm not saying that Venezuela is on the verge of death or anything like that, but I don't know. I mean, we don't know much about what's been going on in Venezuela recently. At least I don't. But I just know it's a really poor country. The inflation's crazy high. Pretty sure I mentioned this last night as well. But average salary there is $40,000 a year, or a month. I mean, not a year, a month. And a hot dog on the street costs $15,000. So, I mean, needless to say, if you do work full time there, it's really just not worth it. But anyway, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. I know that we doubled our presence in with the Navy and the Coast Guard military around that area. I don't think they're in Venezuelan waters, but they said they're doing this to try to keep the drug runners from getting into the U.S., because I heard that Venezuela, since they can't get oil money, instead they're going to try their number 2 export, which is drugs. And with the United States hearing about that, that's why they wanted to double their presence, just to keep them from trying to ship drugs up to the United States, because we don't need to deal with a surplus of drugs right now. I mean, maybe the appropriate pain-killing opioid type drugs, I'm sure, could be useful in some places, but not for recreational use. So anyway, let's see here. Give me just a second. I got to take a drink. Okay, I'm back. So anyway, with Venezuela, I mean, they lost a naval ship. I mean, that, to me, I just kind of, I didn't feel bad for Maduro. I mean, that dude needs to be, shot in the street as far as I'm concerned. But just the Venezuelan people, I mean, just that Navy ship sinking just symbolized how desperate that company or that country really is. And I just felt really bad just hearing it all over again, like the next day. I'm like, man, that's just not, I mean, just a symbolism of just absolute desperation, that they were trying to use one of their ships, one of their military ships, to turn around a cruise, because by doing so, that may have saved X amount of people's lives by being able to offload that food and supplies off of that cruise ship. Just, yeah, I mean, if you think about it that way, I mean, it's really kind of depressing to think about. Yeah, I mean, and they lost a naval ship, which I'm sure they definitely could not afford that. I mean, I don't know, but just the way that country was governed, I mean, it's sickening, really, because back in when I was about 16 years old, like somewhere around the maybe late 90s, around 2000, I think, the country of Venezuela was the richest country in South America. I mean, they were doing crazy good. They were doing really good. And then in a short period of time, I don't know if it was Chavez dying. I don't know if that's when the tide turned, but I assume that it's this Maduro dude. I think he's the one that really is behind, the impoverishment of the country, impoverishing, I don't know, whatever word that I'm searching for, but yeah. So, and I know we got a $15 million price on his head, which I know I mentioned yesterday. So anyway, I don't want to repeat the show that I had yesterday, but I just thought that was worth mentioning again, because I wasn't really thinking about the whole war thing. And that's not just pertaining to Venezuela, because Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, which I've also mentioned, is pretty mad at us because we are now going to stop exporting goods outside of the country from within. up until, unless there's approval by the government to export whatever it is that they're going to export. And I guess Canada's really mad about it. And I was watching Tim Pool's podcast that he had yesterday. I was watching it just before I started this, and they were talking about that, about how, could this be close to the brink of World War III? And he did mention something that was pretty alarming, I think, in my opinion. He's like, he's like, what are three big things that a country does right before they go to war? He's like, the first thing they do is they bring all their citizens back home. They make everybody come home. Then the next thing they do, they seal off all their borders. And then the third thing they do, they ramp up production. They get all the factories running overtime. Those big three things, that's what's happening right now. So it's definitely a conspiracy theory. I mean, I'm not suggesting that there is no coronavirus, but I guess those three things that we're doing right now, I mean, they could absolutely be explained with coronavirus, and that probably is what's going on. But maybe they're just taking those precautions just in case. They want everybody here. They want to close down our borders. They just want to protect everybody, of course, for the virus, but maybe just in case some of these countries out there get so crazy desperate because their economy is gone and everybody is jobless and homeless and penniless. I mean, there are some countries out there. I mean, I feel that they are going to be very desperate in a fairly short amount of time, especially in Europe, man. I mean, if anybody who's listening to this, if you're out there in Europe, I feel so bad, man. I mean, I really feel for you. I mean, I can't begin to understand what you're going through right now, but I've seen what is going on over there in Europe. I mean, people in Sicily and in Italy are gathering gangs using Facebook to raid grocery stores by the masses. Like, they're assembling groups of like 100, 200 people, and they're like, at this day, this time, at this store, keep it a secret. We're all going to meet up behind the store or whatever. And then they're just going to bum rush the place and just steal everything they can because they don't have any money for food. And there's not enough food going around to feed everybody. So it's crazy. It's really crazy what's going on in Spain and France, Germany, every country. They're all going through a lot in Europe, and it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's definitely scary to see. I mean, the numbers of infected could have easily been prevented, like what happened in Spain with the gathering of hundreds of thousands of people to protest for women's rights. I think like one of the agenda items that they were protesting for was the whole unequal or the pay gap, the wage salary, which is, it's complete garbage. It's not even worth even mentioning, really, because it's absolutely not true. And I'm not even going to get into that, but I mean, I don't know. I guess since I kind of lifted the can open a little bit, the lid open, I mean, they suggest that men make more money than women in every case. That's just the way it is. So I work with probably half men, half women, and by what they're saying that I make 30% more than every other woman that works with me in the workplace, and that's absolutely not true. We all get started in the same wage. Now, men would be more likely than women to try to secure a higher wage. I guess statistically speaking, that women they don't really have much of a drive to like demand a higher salary. I mean, I don't either. Me being a man, I mean, I don't really say, well, that wage sounds good, but I want this much. I mean, usually I'm in a position where I'm just glad to find something. So I don't really do that. But I assume if you have if you got a college degree and you're well off and you have you have a profession that's highly sought after, then I guess, yeah, you could command salaries in some circumstances. But also men tend to take more high risk jobs than women do. I mean, I'm sure that everybody's heard a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but if you put all those things, all those talking points together, it just kind of throws that whole thing out the window, that men make more women than men, like across the board. I mean, women have kids. Women have to take time off. They have to take medical leave whenever they have a kid. FMLA, 3 months. I had to do that when my daughter was born, but I didn't take 3 months off. But men could if they wanted to. I'm sure it was, the whole liberal side got that in. They're like, well, what about men? Men have to be able to take 3 months off too. Well, I mean, I could have, but I wouldn't have gotten paid for any of it except for the first 2 weeks. I think that's the law. Could have changed since I was involved with all that, but I don't know. It's just all a bunch of craziness. And again, if I've talked too far to the point where you're kind of wondering why I'm talking about this, it's just because going back to Spain, where there were hundreds of thousands of people that were protesting in the street, in the middle of February, if I'm not mistaken. So everybody was very well aware that coronavirus was all over the world. The numbers weren't as crazy as they are now, obviously, but even still, the Spain's government allowed its people to amass by the hundreds of thousands in the street to protest something that's kind of silly, in my opinion, to begin with. I mean, women's rights are not silly by any means. It just depends on what exactly they're protesting for, because there are some silly things like that they say that they're protesting for, but it doesn't really quite exist. And I just gave one example, but the Spain's government allowed them to gather by the hundreds of thousands, and now they have like what, number 2, maybe number 3 highest infected number in the world. Of course, we're not counting China because they're not reporting their numbers. I mean, China would by far be number 1, I'm sure. I mean, there are probably millions of infected there by now. So anyway, I don't want to ramble on too long and make it get too late. Let's see here. So yeah, I guess, and that was another thing that Tim Pool mentioned. He said that now would be the best time for a foreign country to attack us. I don't know if I quite agree to that fully. I would say this would be a good time for sure because we're really vulnerable, but maybe 2 weeks from now would be the best time, like where we're getting like the peak amount of infected or whatever that might be going on 2 weeks from now. It's not going to be pretty. They're expecting it to not be pretty at all, but that would be a time that I would expect somebody to act against the United States. Military attack, probably not likely. I think we have 12 or 14 aircraft carriers. I think the second leading country in the world is Russia, and they have like 3. Plus, the one that they just finished, what was it? The USS Gerald Ford. I think that's the one that they just completed. That it can hold like 75 fighter jets. That's insane. And what's really interesting, which I didn't know, but on the platform of those things, you see a bunch of fighter jets there, but not anywhere close to 75. You might see like 15 or 20 parked up there on top, but most of them are below deck. They put them on like this elevator system and they drop them below deck. So there's actually it's almost like a parking garage underneath the deck, the runway of the aircraft carrier, and this parking garage is filled with fighter jets. I don't know. I thought that was just really fascinating when I heard that. Like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that they actually did that. But anyway, militarily, I mean, what I think since Trump became president, I think that he's pumped in like $3 trillion into the military. So militarily, I think it would just be suicide if anybody wanted to try to take us on, even if a lot of our military was infected. Still, most of our attacks could be done from, more or less a cubicle, really, just by using like an Xbox controller and flying a drone somewhere. I mean, that's pretty much how we engage in warfare these days. But I think somebody who's sick with coronavirus, they're self-isolating. I mean, they could easily do that and still drop bombs on people. But yeah, so I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's ridiculous. But cyber terrorism, that's a whole nother thing. Cyber attack could be more likely, but I'm sure that our cyber tech, our cyber technology is way off the charts, crazy, amazingly good. I'm sure it is. And I mean, that's what the NSA does, as far as I understand. I'm sure parts of the CIA do the same thing, and Department of Homeland Security, this, that, and the other. I'm sure everything's probably like Department of Homeland Security might be like the umbrella for all the other intelligence agencies. I don't know. I don't know that much about government structure, really. But yeah, I think that, with the Pentagon and with, all the other buildings and the employees and stuff, I mean, I'm sure that we're definitely at our A game when it comes to cyber terrorism. But still, that's still something to worry about. I mean, just the other day, I woke up and my internet wasn't working. And I went and I checked my flip phone because it has data that actually it's supposed to go through the cell phone network. And I tried to use it and it wasn't working either. And I was like, holy crap, did this really just happen? Did China take down our internet, or did we overload it and now it's not working? I was really legitimately freaking out a little bit. Like, man, I'm going to find out at work. I mean, because I have to use the internet while I'm working. So I guess we'll find out when I get there. And everything was fine. But I noticed after I drove down the street for a few minutes, one of the main streets that I live somewhat nearby is under construction. So as soon as I saw that happening, I just thought, oh, okay, they probably did something stupid like sever the internet line or something. And then when I got back home later on in the day, it was back. It was normal. My mom, she didn't even notice that it had been cut off. So my daughter was able to do her thing all day for doing her homeschool stuff. So anyway, all right, so let's go ahead and get into the news. Again, I don't plan on this going too crazy long. What time are we looking at here? 25 minutes. So I always try to keep these things at least 30 minutes long. I don't want to do one of those like quick 5-minute things, even though there's a lot of people out there that prefer those types of YouTube videos. I mean, people like to kind of shuffle through video after video. Mark Dice, if you like to hear the latest on what's going on, it's usually with his channel, he's usually going after like liberals and liberalism and, the brain dead Democrats and all that, kind of stuff. Not to poke fun at anybody, because I'm not, I'm not in actually, I'm just saying, if you watch his channel, you know what I'm talking about. But he always sticks to like 5 minutes when he gives the news and the latest. So he's like really quick with it. But I'm not like that. I like the longer form. I always like watching podcasts on YouTube. I like watching videos that are an hour long or longer. So anyway, yeah, I'll go ahead and let me just start with Fox News. Let me start with One American News Network, because I didn't look at that today. I did take a glance at Fox News, and there were a couple of articles that looked like they were worth covering. As far as the other side of things, I don't know. I hate going on CNN because I showed this in a video not long ago. Like Fox News has like the top 5 articles to look at. That's on their main page when you first pull it up. That's what you see right there. But when you go to CNN.com, there's 30. And out of all 30 of them, only one of them was a good, like a feel-good type of story or a positive story of some sort. The other ones were just completely terrible, doom and gloom, the world's ending kind of news content. So I don't know. I'll figure it out when maybe I'll go to like, I don't know, Washington Examiner or Washington Post or something. I'm not crazy about those websites at all. But anyway, so yeah, that was crazy. I saw that today. Joe Rogan, he must have had it must have been yesterday, because I was current on his podcasts all the way up until Friday. So he must have either did one on Friday or some point early today. But the latest one he released, he says he'd rather vote for President Trump than Biden, which was crazy. And he actually, I don't really want to use the word trash. He didn't trash Biden, but he was pretty much saying like, look, man, this dude, he's got, I mean, my words, not his, but dude's got like dementia. Every day he looks worse than the day before. I mean, he's wrong about all kinds of things. His gaffes are almost every 5 minutes at this point, not like once every debate. So I don't know. Very interesting. Not really coronavirus related, but still an interesting read, especially if you're a fan of Joe Rogan's. I'm definitely going to watch that show. I mean, I can't wait to watch that. So I'm going to tune into that probably tomorrow at some point when I'm cleaning the house. Let's see here. Coronavirus hospitalizations lower than projected. That's a good thing. Doesn't say if it's in the United States or not, but I'll click on it. Hopefully it's in the U.S. I assume it is. So let's see here. From the OAN newsroom, let's see here. New data taken from multiple states' health departments have revealed that actual hospitalizations for the coronavirus are much lower than projected. Reports drew a comparison between the Institute of Health Metrics and evaluation numbers and actual real-time data based on how many hospital beds were expected to be needed and how many are being used. According to the study, only 37% of beds are being used to treat patients in New York City. Wow, that's a low number. I mean, I keep hearing on the news, including Fox News, I keep hearing like 80%. They're at 80% capacity or something like that. That's interesting. The trend continues in at least 9 other states, including Colorado at 23% and Tennessee at only 9%. And that's great. Great news. One Denver resident visited St. Joseph's Hospital to find it nearly empty. Wow, that's crazy. I guess I got some pictures here. This is on Twitter. So St. Luke's in Denver is a ghost town. One of the nurses told me that it was pretty slow, but that they were preparing for it to get busy. The emergency room was empty too. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, they got pictures. That's interesting. I mean, you'll see pictures and videos of hospitals when they're empty, but when it starts to fill up with people, that's when it's a big no-no. It's like a HIPAA violation. And that's a series of medical-related laws, mostly pertaining to medical information. But let me see if I can remember this. I think it stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Pretty sure I got that right, but if you want to prove me wrong, or if I am actually wrong, you can just let me know down in the comments. But I deal with HIPAA all the time. I have to be retrained every year, so I know all about HIPAA, and As soon as somebody goes in the hospital and starts filming people, that's a violation of their medical rights, because if you put their face out there for the world to see, now all of a sudden, they have a leg to stand on as far as suing the hell out of you because patient's privacy, man. You got to have your privacy rights. Big time. So, okay. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, we got the point. I pretty much covered most of it except that little tidbit there. But let's see here. So business, I don't know. Trump threatens tariffs on oil imports to protect U.S. energy workers. Okay. I don't know. I mean, we're kind of behind the eight ball on that one. I mean, I think that, the entire world, they can get gas at a crazy cheap price right now. Especially for Venezuela. I mean, how cheap do you think they're selling their oil for right now? Show typical British resolve queen to tell nation amid coronavirus outbreak. It doesn't sound all that interesting to me, to be honest with you. Number of coronavirus intensive care patients in Italy drops for the first time. That's also good. So if you live in Italy, if you go to oann.com, I don't know if it's like .us. I don't know how it is in other countries because I've never used the internet outside the U.S. I've been outside the U.S. I've been to Mexico a couple times, but first time I went was in 2003, and we didn't have internet at the house there. And it was like just a vacation house. But yeah, that place is huge now. It was called Akumal, Akumal. It's about an hour south of Playa del Carmen. It was tiny when I went. It took like 15 minutes to walk from one side of the town to the other. It was literally like a town and a couple of hotels and the short street of these villas that sat on the water. And yeah, I mean, back then you could get a hotel with an ocean view and it was gorgeous. Second longest coral reef on earth, runs right along Mexico down there in the Yucatan. And you could get a hotel room down there for like off season, like in the fall or something like that, for like $70 a night. Insanely cheap. But now I drove by it back in, I think, 2015. And it's like a full-on interstate system that they got going on down there now. It's crazy. They had like an off-ramp to go up to Akumal, but when I first stayed there, it was dirt roads. Like a dirt road went into Akumal. It was pretty nuts. But anyway, sorry to ramble, but yeah, I don't know if it's .us if you live in Italy, and if you have any interest on looking it up. President Trump speaks out on efforts to combat coronavirus. Let me just click on this just to see if they have any bullet points or anything that might be readily accessible for me to share. Let's see here. He's reaffirmed that his administration will move heaven and earth to protect U.S. citizens from coronavirus. During Saturday's press briefing, the president said the government's goal is to stay several days ahead of the needs in each state, but noted it will only be possible if states and hospitals provide data about usage, which they're supposed to be doing that. They're supposed to be delivering information, I think, to FEMA. If it's not FEMA, it's another agency that's collecting data. Like every single day, every single hospital in the country is supposed to report how many masks they still have available, this, that, and the other, so that way they can assess like how many days it's going to be before the hospital runs out, and at what point do we need to send them more. So they're supposed to be doing that. I don't know if it's like breaking the law if they don't, but they already have that whole system set up. All right, so let's see here. Quote, "We will continue to use every power, every authority, every single resource we've got to keep our people healthy, safe, secure, and to get this thing over with," he said. "We want to finish this war. We have to get back to work, and we have to reopen our country again." President Trump noted this will probably be the toughest week of the pandemic. He added, "There's going to be a lot of deaths in the coming weeks." And I am telling you, people, anybody who's listening to this right now, all three of you, however many people might be hearing my voice right now, if it's still the weekend, I mean, if you're hearing this on Sunday, even if I fell behind and I didn't post this until Sunday night, I mean, if anything is open at that point, do, especially Sunday, because it might not. I mean, Sunday night to me seems like it's usually the slower shopping day, or maybe Monday morning if you can get up early or if you're not working at the time. But you have to go to the store this weekend. You do not want to go anywhere next week. I mean, New York obviously is the worst, and there's LA's actually not doing too bad, really. I mean, I saw the numbers in California, and I'll cover it. I actually forgot to pull up the Johns Hopkins map, so I'll do that next. But California, relatively, for being the most populated state, it's actually not. The numbers aren't as crazy as I thought they were going to be around now. But yeah, I mean, and maybe if you live out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, then I guess you'll be fine. Probably going to the store. That might be like 2 hours away from you, but you know what I mean. If you live in a city right now, with them talking about next week being the worst week of the pandemic, you don't want to be going out in public during that. You don't want to be dealing with it because just to think about it, the incubation period for coronavirus is up to 14 days, or it might even be more than that. I mean, it could be up to a month for all we know. I've heard different talking points to that effect, but there are people who could very easily be shopping in the same store you're shopping in, and they are 100% contagious, but they're not showing symptoms yet. And it's only a matter of them possibly like breathing in your direction, or they're exhaling as you're walking past them, and you just happen to inhale without even thinking because you don't pay attention to your breathing pattern. You might just like that just get coronavirus. I mean, I would just say I know this is like the last minute of all last minutes before the worst of it comes, but I mean, now would be a better time than even tomorrow. I mean, if you have any essentials that you are planning on going to get this week and you have to get them this week no matter what, then I would go like now, right now. The sooner the better. Because if you hold off and if you go out on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or something like that, your chances are just going to keep going up way more every single day for your chances of possibly contracting coronavirus. So definitely be safe and be careful out there. I did my grocery run last week. What was it, Wednesday or Thursday? Sanitized every single item. I think that was Thursday. But yeah, it was. But I just made sure to, stay clear of everyone. I went to a grocery store that's not usually crowded. It was a little crowded, but not too bad. But I mean, just use your common sense. Just stick to your gut. Stick to your common sense if you have good common sense. But I mean, hopefully anybody who's listening to this, they're already ready. They're already ready for this week. They've got the meat in the freezer. They already bought their bag of bread. The bag of bread I just bought on Thursday, it's up in the freezer because I don't plan on going back to the store for April at all. Now, I've already mentioned this. I drink a lot of orange juice. I drink almost like a whole can of orange juice in a single day. I take medicine that I use orange juice with because the medicine I take is bitter. So it's just an easy thing to drink it with. And then also I always have a couple of glasses of rum each night just because it's my thing. And I just drink it with straight orange juice because when I buy orange juice concentrate, it takes up a lot less room than it would if I just bought a few cartons of that like, I usually get like pineapple orange Dole, but it just takes up more room. It's more expensive. So I try to stay on this cheap end of things, and I usually get orange juice concentrate, but I don't have enough to get me through to the end of April. So I'm just going to have to make a judgment call when that day comes. Either I'm just going to have to just bite the bullet and drink water. It's not going to kill me. I mean, I drink plenty of water every day, but when it comes to taking my medicine, I mean, it doesn't alleviate the bitterness. So I might have to just drink some water and then maybe take a bite of chocolate or something. I don't know, like something I need to do to fend off the bitterness. So anyway, let's see here. I actually did buy some Coke though. So I guess I could have a couple rum and Cokes, but I don't like that because I just don't like the sugar content. But I guess orange juice isn't too much better than Coke. Sure, the sugar. I don't think I've ever looked at the sugar content. I'm sure it's pretty high though. All right. Anyway, I know I'm rambling too much. My apologies. President Trump noted this will probably be the toughest week. Okay, we got through that. He also urged the American people to continue following federal guidelines aimed at curbing the spread of the virus. Vice President Mike Pence emphasized that these practices are making a difference. And I'm sure they are. According to the president, predictions showed New Orleans, Detroit, and New York will all hit their peaks in the next week. Let's see. Quote, I can also report that at my direction, 1,000 military personnel are deploying to New York City to assist where they're needed the most. That's the hardest of all the hotspots. New Jersey is right there, right next to it. I don't know if that's overflow, but it's a great state. It's a very crowded state also. Where you have people on top of people, it's always tough. So I did mention that already. Oh, wow, man. They've got like his name underneath, 45th President of the United States. Like, it's going to be a historical quote. Probably will be, man. I mean, you got to think of this. I mean, this is like, I'm 35 years old. This is definitely the craziest month. I mean, like, we're starting to get up to almost 2 months at this point, but this has definitely been the craziest month of my lifetime. I've never seen every single sports arena close, every single movie theater, every single shopping center, all the malls, all the restaurants. I mean, you just keep going down the list. I've never seen the world close before, and frankly, nobody who's living today has either. Maybe the last time it was something like relative to this, which I don't think it was nearly on this scale, may have been like the Great Depression, maybe. World War II, I doubt, because we didn't fight a war here. I don't know. I mean, I don't think this has ever happened. I mean, with Spanish flu that struck in 1917, I'm sure a lot of people were trying to quarantine, but they didn't know that much about pandemic management back then. So it's just a really strange time. I mean, 9/11. I mean, I still remember that day very vividly. I mean, I was six. Yeah, I think I was 16. No, I was 17. I just turned 17 at the time, and yeah, I mean, what a crazy day. But this is gonna be unforgettable. I mean, yeah, the amount of information, the quotes, and all this, that, and the other. I mean, if people just wanted President Trump to have like a lame presidency where he just kind of sat around and he just kind of was shuffled into the history book with a lot of the other presidents who you don't really know what they did. I'm sure a lot of them from the 1800s, early 1900s, you probably can't name. Just those like in-between type presidents that aren't tied to a significant historical event that would immortalize them forever. Well, I would be very, it's very unfortunate for me to tell you that that President Trump is definitely going to be remembered forever, not just for this pandemic, but everything else he's done before this as well. But this is really going to seal the deal. I mean, if we can survive this as a country, and 20, 30, 40 years ago, 100 years from now, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be pretty hard to overtake President Trump as being like the best president ever. I know that's a very loaded political answer, but still, I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, there's not one thing. The only thing that I wasn't too happy about after his first year in office was that he never tackled the national debt. But I guess you could argue in favor of him doing that by hitting countries with tariffs, like China, 25% tariffs on what, $350 billion of goods or something like that. That's a lot of money. And it probably wasn't going to the national debt. He always said it was going to the Treasury. So maybe it was going to the debt somehow, but I doubt it. That's the only thing I wasn't happy about, because the government's still spending more money than they're collecting in taxes. So other than that, he's good, man. He's good. He's good in my book. I mean, he's done everything else that I could think of. Anyway, I don't want to, go down that road, but let's see. Earlier on Saturday, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced the state is close to hitting the apex, or the point where the number of infections on a daily basis is at the highest point. By the numbers, we're not yet at the apex, but we're pretty close. We're getting closer, he said. Depending on whose model you look at, they'll say 4, 5, 6, 7 days. The governor stressed this point will be the ultimate challenge for the healthcare system. I call it the battle of the mountaintop because that's what it's going to be, stated Cuomo. That's going to be the number one point of engagement of the enemy. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. Oh yeah, the what was that called? The USNS Comfort, and the other one was Mercy, the one that's in Los Angeles. He added the state is not yet ready for that high point. He also announced that he's signing an executive order which will allow medical students graduating in the spring to start going into practice now. I heard about that. Isn't that crazy? So they're at the point now where, I mean, they're still a couple of months away, so they haven't actually learned everything. But he's signing an executive order giving certification to all the RNs out there, or aspiring RNs. They're getting their RN license like now, which is crazy. So they're going to say, yeah, congratulations, you finished school early. All right, here, have fun. I mean, I could not imagine. I mean, really, I couldn't imagine. So I don't know if this thing gets worse countrywide. I wouldn't be surprised if the military starts, going on TV, asking people to join, I don't know what they call that, the medical unit or whatever. Kind of like field medic training or something like that, but not really literally being a field medic, just more like I'm sure that you probably start doing that. Like you probably learn all the basics as far as, applying first aid out in the field. But I wouldn't be surprised if the military starts, trying to ramp up very quickly a demand for healthcare employees or people who are getting into the military, who who they would like to transition over into the medical sector of the military. I'm sure that they're probably organizing that right now. I don't know, folks. They're saying this thing's going to come in waves. Saying this first one, this is the first wave. This is the second one in the fall, could be even worse. We just don't know. But anyway, that's One American News Network. Let me go to more. Let's see here. Actually, here, let me just close out of this one because I already got Google up here. My stupid ad block keeps bringing up stupid Bing. All right. The only reason I don't get rid of ad block is just because I've already pumped so many, like over 100 websites. I've already clicked into it, so I think I will eventually once I had enough with stupid Bing. But okay, let's see. I guess I'll go with Washington Post. I don't know. Let me just see what they got on here. I don't like any of these liberal papers. I mean, most of them are fake news. It's all fake news. All right, let's see. Tracing the Trump administration's failures over the first 70 days of the virus fight. See, there you go. How's that helping us right now? You know, we're going through a pandemic across the country, and you cannot stop ragging on the president. Just leave him the hell alone. Let him do his job, and focus on things that really matter. Like where's the progress of the cure, the vaccine? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? I mean, that's why I hate these stupid whatever. All right. See, this thing is almost impossible to navigate. Be set by denial and dysfunction. Live updates. Confirmed the top 300,000 in the U.S. as Fauci stresses social distancing is our most important tool. Cuomo brothers put on quite a show. Should the journalism ethics police shut it down? Who cares? All across the United States, the coronavirus is killing more men than women, data shows. That's not new. That's actually pretty old news. We knew about that almost 2 months ago. Inside the ouster of Captain Brett Crozier, I think he was the one who was in command of that aircraft carrier, I think. I don't know. I can't be for sure, but get our coronavirus? No. Yeah, right. That should be on here. You should be talking about that on your main page, not making me go to another page to read about coronavirus. Are you serious? Let me just do this. Click on coronavirus. Okay. That one I've already been familiarized with earlier. 300,000 are infected. Okay, that's the gist of it. Dr. Fauci says to be socially distant. Keep your distance. I mean, you know, all the stuff we've already heard. Oh, but there's a few bullet points here. Here are some significant developments. A post-investigation, uncovered alarm and dismay among scientists at health labs about the Trump administration's reliance on a flawed coronavirus test developed by the CDC. Okay. The U.S. will likely go down as the country that was supposedly best prepared to fight a pandemic, but ended up catastrophically overmatched. The Washington Post retraces the failures over the first 70. Yeah, see, garbage. Italian authorities. See, like that's such a destructive and crappy thing to say. I mean, talk about somebody who hates this country with a passion. Whoever put this thing up here on the Washington Post, clearly they are about as un-American as any American could possibly be. What a piece of crap. Italian authorities said that for the first time since the beginning of the outbreak, the use of intensive care unit beds fell. That's good. Finally, there's something decent to read. At least 155 crew members aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt have tested positive for coronavirus days after the Navy aircraft carrier's captain was relieved of his post. 2 people on the Coral Princess cruise ship, which reported 12 positive cases of the coronavirus Thursday, died overnight. Okay, that's crazy. Sign up for our newsletter. Yeah, give me a freaking break. Most Americans are under stay-at-home orders, but 6 out of 10 are still on the road. That I am not surprised with at all because I live on not a busy road, but I live on a road that connects, that, you know, neighborhoods are connected to. So it's kind of a suburban type place, although we're not even close to suburbia. Like I'm like dead center in the middle of Tampa Bay. If you look up Seminole, Florida, like I'm right in the middle of it all. But the road that I live on is not, you know, it's a 1 lane this way and that way. I mean, it's nothing like this road here, but there's a lot of traffic. I mean, since I started talking, I've been looking out the window for about 15 seconds. So far, I've seen 2 cars drive by. So yeah, I bet that's true. I bet there's still at least 6 out of 10 cars still driving around. Everybody needs to be quarantining, staying inside. But nope, people got to go out. People got to spread this. Heroes have arrived. Health workers from around the country answer New York City's call for help. I did hear on, I think it was on Twitter, there was lady in Minnesota who is going to New York City to help them out. She's an RN. There was like something that was mentioned about her. Trump GOP challenge efforts to make voting easier amid pandemic. Now, they're going to go into talking about mail-in ballots, which I think is absolute, like, that is not the way to go, because if you do mail-in ballots exclusively, it's very, very, very easy. It's very easy to corrupt that system because, I mean, like, for example, let's say that, that I hate Trump really bad and my mom really likes Donald Trump. And, people who are this bat crap crazy, if you know what I mean, they would, I'm sure that this would happen on, not on a crazy huge scale, but let me just finish my thing. But so we both get a mail-in ballot in the mail. All right. I go and I always go to pick up the mail, for instance. And when the ballots show up, I see one for my mom and I see one for me. And I'm definitely not going to vote for Trump in this scenario. Obviously I would, but if I hate him that much, I might actually take my mom's ballot and circle in the other candidate, like Joe Biden or whoever, and then just put him right back in the mail and just send him out. Mom's like, "Where's the ballot?" I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? And that's just one of many different ways that it could be corrupted. But people could request more than one. They could say they lost one in the mail. And now you got people who are sending in 2, 3, 4 mail-in ballots when they should only be sending one in. It's really easy to cheat that system. It's not something that works. Like what Trump had said during his press conference, that we need voter ID cards. We really need them with our picture on it. So that way when we show up to vote, they actually can see your face on the card, which will verify your name and your address, your voting district. It proves that you are who you say you are. And you can go and you can vote. He was talking about how voting it's just an in-person process. You just have to do it in person. We can still do the social distancing guidelines come November, 6 feet apart, or if somebody's coughing, maybe 27 feet from them or something like that. Yes, the line will be ridiculously crazy long. It'll be like 5 times longer than what the line normally is. Sure. So, in your point, you get a little exercise, okay? Congratulations. You'll get to walk, 5 times more than you normally do when you go to vote. So I completely agree. Mail-in ballots should not be a thing. Absentee ballots, I understand that's something that you just can't help. If you're off fighting in the military or something and you're not in the country but you still want to vote, I get that. But just the mail-in ballots, we do it in Florida, and I actually vote by mail. So it is a convenience. It's a convenience to me, and I don't cheat the system. I get it in the mail, I fill it out, I stick it back in the mailbox, and I hope that it gets there and they count it. But that's the only thing that I don't like about mail-in ballots, aside from the fact that it could be corrupted so easily. I'm kind of uncomfortable with the fact that I can just drop it in the mailbox, and there's a lot of hands that are gonna that my vote is gonna go through, and at any point it could just either get lost or it could get shuffled into a different stack, or maybe they feed it through the machine and it doesn't get counted properly, or maybe somebody who is really corrupt might actually get rid of the ones that I voted for and vote the other way. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what some places are capable of doing. Like, look at Broward County, Florida. The controversies that have been going on in that county. What's her name? Supervisor of elections. They finally fired her. It's about friggin' time. She's been, just covered up with controversy since back in the year 2000 with the Bush election, the Bush and Al Gore election. The whole recount. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was like a whole week. We had to wait for Florida to recount their votes because Broward County screwed up, and they had to recount it by hand. It's basically the same thing they had to do last time. It's freaking stupid, nightmare, ridiculous nonsense. And it was the same lady that the last big election, same thing happened. This time, I don't think it was the Trump election, though. I think it was the governor election. So that would have been Ron DeSantis and oh crap! I know the guy who was running for governor. Believe it or not, he was arrested in Miami, like just a week or two ago for cocaine possession. Gillum, right? I think it's like Andrew Gillum. I don't want to smear somebody, so I have to look it up now. I think it's Andrew Gillum. Oh, Ewan. Entering rehab. Yeah, that's him. Yep. Democratic star, ex-mayor Andrew Gillum entering rehab. Why is the BBC talking about this? Why does Britain care? But yeah, he was running against Ron DeSantis, Democrat, of course, but he lost, very narrow loss. I mean, Ron DeSantis, he won. It's pretty close. There's Ron DeSantis there, but he won the state of Florida for the governorship. And Andrew Gillum was the guy that lost. And yeah, like a few weeks ago, he was partying it up in Miami, and yeah, they found coke on him in his hotel room. I don't know why I don't know if he was having a fight with somebody or what, but yeah, he got himself busted, and now he has to leave politics. What an idiot, man! Come on. Like if you're in the public eye like that, I mean, I guess he wasn't so much because he lost the election, but still, dude. I mean, come on. If you got cocaine on you and you're fighting with somebody, the cops are probably going to find it. Lift up the toilet lid. I mean, if you heard somebody calling 911, lift up the lid, drop it in there or something. I don't know. No, don't do that. Don't even have coke. Don't even do any of that. It's ridiculous. I've never even tried it before. I heard it makes your face numb. The closest thing I ever had to that was, what is that stuff called for your mouth? The stuff that makes your teeth, like your, crap, what's it called? Well, it's lidocaine. I do know that. It's lidocaine. I'm trying to think of the name brand, but yeah, that's basically it. I've had lidocaine before, which is like a cousin of cocaine, or it's a derivative of cocaine, or the coca plant or whatever. But, I mean, I don't know if cocaine feels like that. I'm sure it does something else to you, but, I mean, lidocaine, it makes your mouth numb. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm pretty much done, to be honest with you. I just don't have much motivation. I was way more excited to do my other video. And I did go almost an hour. I mean, I'm sorry that I did a lot of, filler information, a lot of stuff that I wasn't directly talking about the coronavirus. But let me just finish up real quick by showing you the map for Johns Hopkins. I will at least go there. Dow Jones I don't have to do because they don't run the Dow Jones over the weekend, so there's no point. It's gonna be the same as it was last time, which was not good. I think it dropped like 400 points, something like that. I haven't looked at this since a while. Oh man, almost 1.2 million people. Holy crap. Lots and lots. Let's see, Greenland is still at 1? No, wow, it's at 11 now. Holy crap. When I last clicked on that, there was only 1, but it's been at least a week. See, it's even spreading in Greenland. How does it spread in Greenland? So, spoiler alert, not really a spoiler alert, but the first place that I'm going to cover in my next video is going to be the Seychelles Islands, and that's what this place is right here. Seychelles Islands. And that I will be covering in my first video. 10 people, they currently have it. So, there's over 100 islands that make up this country, and I really look forward to covering this in my first video. I've always wanted to go to the Seychelles Islands. I just learned today, actually, when I was reading up on it, that it's actually a country in Africa, which it is pretty close to Africa, so it totally makes sense that it would be an African country. But I never really considered, like, knowing about some of these island nations that are off the coast like they are, like which continent they technically belong to. I never really thought of it that way. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder, since Papua New Guinea and since they are so close to Australia. I mean, look how close they are. Like, why wouldn't that be considered a part of Australia? I'm sure it's a part of Asia. I would assume, but yeah, I mean that one's clearly close to Africa. Anyway, I know I'm rambling. I'm not talking about what I should be. Let me see. China's the same still. Well, that's Hubei, China. China as a whole is now 6th on the list. 6th. Still with 82,000. Isn't that interesting? Like, they're getting like 3 new cases a day. They've been in 82,000 for over a month now. It's ridiculous. There's no way that nobody's getting affected by this now. That's complete garbage. There's no way they have this under control. 181 countries. Look at that, folks. 181 now. Last time I looked, I think it was 178. It jumped up to 181 now. Unless I don't remember, I can't quite remember what it was last night, but I guess there's a chance it could be that, but I don't quite remember. But look at this. You remember earlier when well, I mean, I guess it's not like changing. Well, no, I guess that's still not good news. It's still like, at first, when I first glanced at it, I thought maybe it was starting to curve a tiny bit, but it's really not. But yeah, Europe is in big trouble. 124,000 people. France, 89,000. I mean, yes, these countries have tens of millions of people that live there, but still. I mean, these are the ones that we know of. 126,000 in Spain. I guess it'd be easier to look over here, but Iran is still at 55,000. I'm sure those numbers aren't legit because they've been around that for a while now. Their country is not very economically stable, to say the very least. So, kind of like Venezuela. I mean, the country's so poor, which is right here, by the way, Venezuela. Let me see how many they have. 155. That's actually not bad. But, again, it could be skewed numbers because they might not be reporting it because it's a dictatorship. Same with North Korea. I think they said that they have none, 0, which I doubt. Well, I don't doubt that because North Korea is a very closed-off nation. So, I actually wouldn't be surprised. There's the Canary Islands, I think. It's way over here. Cabo Verde. All right, whatever. I thought it was the Canary Islands. Guess I was wrong. Unless this is part of it. No, Cabo Verde. Where are the Canaries? Oh, this might be it here. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I thought it was somewhere around here. Anyway, that's about all I got, folks. 10,360 in Brazil. That's a pretty big number. That's growing fast. Let's get a little more local here. Start with LA. Excuse me, LA. I was curious to see what so California's got a lot more than I thought because LA alone has 4,000. I thought California as a whole only had a couple thousand, but no, it's way more than that now. Denver, Colorado at 716. Indianapolis, they said Indiana could be another hotspot. It's at 1,500. Detroit, they said, is already a big hotspot, but could get much worse, 6,000. 2,700 in Oakland, Michigan. Macomb, Michigan is at 1,838. Chicago is sitting at 7,439. I mean, look at this, man. It's everywhere. Literally all across the country. I mean, what's the point in I don't know. I mean, I'm not a professional, so I really shouldn't even go there, but I'm just frustrated at the fact that people are not working right now. 10 million people have filed for unemployment so far that we know of, and I think the next jobs report or unemployment filing report will come out next Wednesday. All I know, and I've already shared this in a previous video, there's 15 million people who work in the restaurant industry, and there's over 10 million people that work in the retail industry, both of which are completely closed up right now. So it wouldn't surprise me if this goes to 25 million or more unemployed. There could be businesses where they're just not bringing in money. I mean, you think that hospitals, they're the best set. They're the ones that are really set. The ones that you think would be the most successful place to work at right now. But no, I don't think so. Because hospitals, what if they're not getting reimbursed by the government fast enough? Or what if there's too many uninsured people going into that hospital and they essentially go broke in a very short amount of time because they just used all the profits that they had made throughout the lifetime of that hospital to battle the virus, and now all of a sudden they have no more money to buy anything with. Yeah, the government can supply them with certain things, masks and gowns and stuff, but what about actual equipment, like surgical equipment, things like that? I mean, I'm not quick to say that a hospital is like a slam dunk place to work right now. Yes, if you're a nurse or a doctor or like a person who works in a hospital, yeah, you'll be set, but if the economy completely tanks and it crashes, if the hospital can't pay you, what's the point in working still? Like most people would say, well, I'd rather just stay home and protect my family. If you're not even paying me for it, why am I risking my life doing it then? It's just, I don't know. I mean, I think really, to be honest with you, the only real winner that's actually making big money out of this situation, business wise, are the grocery stores. Drugstores. I'm sure gas stations are doing all right. Maybe not with the gas tax, but I don't think gas stations make very much at all from gasoline anyway. I think that's just a way to get people in the convenience stores. At least that's what I've heard in the past. So, okay, so here's Pinellas County. We're at 342, so we've climbed up pretty quickly, but still, I did want to bring this up yesterday, and I don't think I did. Yesterday, it was 1 out of 2,000 people in the county have it. So we have about 980,000 people in the county. And if you divide that, obviously, by 342, that will give you the 1 in. Wait a minute, that's not right. Maybe it was 1 in 3,000 that I pulled up the other day. Yeah, that's right. That's right. 1 out of, okay, so anyway, forget the 2,000 thing. 1 out of every 2,865 people who are in Pinellas County have coronavirus. Obviously, it's not spread like that. I mean, it's, I'm sure there's like mini hotspots in the area, but if you go into the grocery store, or if you go out in public, or if you're just doing your own thing, or if you're walking down the Pinellas Trail or something like that, just know that statistically, not literally, but statistically, 1 out of every 2,800 people have it. So still pretty low, at least for our county. I mean, it's 342. That's a lot lower than I thought we were going to be at this time. So at the end of the week, hopefully we're still under 1,000. I'm really hoping for that. We'll just have to wait and see. I wish they would give us like a state. Actually, they do. I forgot they did this down here on this tab. All right, so New York, number 1, 113. No, here, let me go over here. These are broken down by state, I think. No, they're just cities in the states. Okay, well, still 63,000 in New York. Nassau, New York, 13,000. That's number 2. Wow, look at that. Look at that number. That difference. Number 1 most infected is New York City, 63,000 cases, and the number 2 most infected in the country is Nassau, New York, which has 13,000, and it drops from there. So, where's Miami? Miami was up there. I thought it was. Oh, maybe no, it's not. Well, Miami-Dade, 3,890. Yeah, there it is, Miami-Dade. So, yeah, I mean, not really sure what else to look for. Like they said, New Orleans was blowing up. They blame Mardi Gras. They think Mardi Gras is what contributed to a lot of infections there because everybody was hitting Bourbon Street, right? Yeah, Bourbon Street. I get that mixed up with Nashville because Nashville has, or no, Memphis. Memphis has one of those like week-long celebrations. It's called Beale Street Festival. I've never been. I heard it's awesome. I heard it's like Mardi Gras-ish. I don't think it takes place around the same time because in February it's probably super cold there. Maybe not super cold, but it's probably not perfect. Not a perfect time to be holding a festival or a New Orleans Mardi Gras like event. So yeah, I mean that's what we're looking like today, folks. Almost 1.2 million people. Probably within the next 2 hours, it's gonna cross the 2 million mark. It's growing quick, it's spreading quick, far and wide. So again, the best we can do is just hunker down. Look at that. Quebec, Canada has 6,000. Now the entirety of Canada only has about 30 million people there. So, and we've got 330 million. So I don't know, man. Look at that. Nunavut, they don't have any. Nunavut has 0. And believe it or not, people do live there. That's the newest province. If you want like a little bit of geography lessons, like a little tidbit of information. But yeah, that's the newest province. I think it was like in 2002, 2003 maybe, when they actually split this off from the Northwest Territories. Because this all used to be Northwest Territories. Like all of that used to be. But then they gave Nunavut, because there's a lot of natives that live up there, or indigenous people, you know, whatever political correctness phrase that I have to be using. Yeah, they had been apparently asking for their own province for decades, and Canada finally said, okay, we'll give you your own province. You're still a part of Canada, but if you want to have a place that you'd like to call Nunavut. Yeah, Alaska, Barrow, it's up here. There's nobody infected up there. Northernmost city in the United States. Wow, there's 46 in Fairbanks. North Star. That's an interesting place for it to wind up. It's because these idiots, like these idiot rich people that feel like they have to travel all over the place all the time. They leave Italy, then they fly all over these places, these exotic places that you don't normally visit, and then you get explosions of coronavirus. I mean, 46 is hardly an explosion, but still. Out in the middle of Alaska, like way out there, I mean, I figured Alaska would be almost virtually free of it, but nope. It's everywhere, folks. So anyway, I'll go ahead and cut it there. I'll end it there. Hopefully these numbers will start to shrink, and I'm sure we'll hear that, before we hear anything else on that day, that the numbers do start dwindling down. I will say, though, an old story that I read on one of my first videos, New Zealand, they only had 8 infections at the time I read this story, but New Zealand closed its borders from any outside country for any reason whatsoever. Like nobody was going in New Zealand. They only had 8 cases when that happened, when they closed off their country. Now they're dealing with 1,000. So clearly it's very highly infectious, because nobody's been inside New Zealand since they closed it off last month. And now they went from 8 to 1,000. So honestly, folks, I don't think there's anything we're going to be able to do to combat this thing. I think it's just going to have to sweep through the population until we finally get a vaccine, and we can't be shacked up for that long, because we won't have any economy left over if we keep up with this for the next 3-4 months. I really don't think we will. So let's hope for the best. I will come back with another video. I plan on doing one tomorrow. If I don't, my apologies, but I want to keep it consistent. I really didn't want to do one tonight, but I just want to keep the ball rolling, because if I start, cutting the habit, the schedule, then I mean, it could be days before I do another one. I'm just a very procrastinating type of person. I would call myself lazy too, but I think most of us are to some extent or another. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all stay super safe out there. Stay as safe as you possibly can. Stay indoors. If you have to do shopping, I really hope that you're not in a position where you have to. But definitely just do whatever you can to just prepare, hunker down. Don't leave your house for the next week. Obviously, you can walk around the block as long as you're not close to anybody, but use your common sense. And until next time I put up the next video, I hope you stay real safe out there. Thank you so much for watching.